Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new League of Legends video. Before we dive right into this, I quickly want to mention I'm going to be at PAX South this weekend, so if you see me wearing my shirt, come over and say hi. And on top of that, I'm going to be streaming most likely right now, doing my placements over at twitch.tv/redmercy lol. But let's get right into this video. So as this video goes live, the ranks should be reset, and I'm sure most of you, especially if you watch my channel, play mid lane, or at least are trying to. In the past several videos I have released have been trying to give you guys a few more pointers in terms of solo queue. For instance, a champion that I feel like is strong, or talking about general solo queue tips. So let's continue that trend here and go into the top 5 AP mid laners for patch 5.1. There have been quite a few changes throughout the AP mid laners, and I changed my list quite significantly. Some are the same, some are new. So without any further ado, let's go right to the number 5 spot, which is gonna be, as usual, the champion you've been looking at for the past minute. And that is gonna be no other than Twisted Fate. Before I get into Twisted Fate's pros and cons, I do quickly want to mention that putting Twisted Fate in the number 5 spot is more of just a personal preference. A lot of people simply just don't really look at Twisted Fate the same anymore. But this is a champion I have always enjoyed playing and I've always felt is strong. And so just because I personally love this champion and really enjoy playing him and truly believe he is very strong and has a lot of potential, well, I thought let's put him in number 5. I just finished playing a LAN tournament event in Toronto where I ended up placing second with my team, and a few games I played Twisted Fate, and it just really reminded me why I love this champion. So going into the pros, the first thing is the fact that he has one of the best ultimates in the game. Well, that's of course implying that you know how to use it, because at the same time it could also be one of the worst. But looking at the positives, his ultimate, especially for solo queue, is perfect. A lot of people are not going to be coordinated, they will not have any synergy, and Twisted Fate's ultimate is just exceptional at throwing them off. So if you really know how to use his ultimate, you can not only win a lane while also winning your own lane, but you can instantly turn around any bad situation for your team. For instance, what if the enemy jungler is ganking either top lane, bottom lane, or is dueling with your jungler, whether it's in your jungle or in their jungle? Well, pop your ultimate, jump right into the fight, and bam, suddenly there's a whole extra champion right in the middle of that fight, probably turning it around as well. So in my opinion, one of the best ultimates in the game. The second one is the fact that his Q, and this is something that I absolutely adore about Twisted Fate, his Q does full damage no matter how many targets it passes through. So many abilities, for instance an Azir ultimate, do less damage for each subsequent target that they pass through, but Twisted Fate is one of the few champions that has an ability that can pass through any number of targets while still dealing the same damage. This not only makes it exceptional in team fights, but also exceptional in wave clearing. Then you have his very infamous E plus Lichbane plus W combo. If your E is ready to go off, which it does every 4 auto attacks, you have your W set maybe on the gold card or blue card, and then you have your Lichbane ready to go. Suddenly you're chunking for about half HP off of 1 auto attack. You have his passive now, which got tweaked a little bit to the point where it's just a lot better in my opinion, because for solo queue especially, you don't want to depend on your teammates, you want to just depend on yourself. And honestly, I generate about 1,000 gold a game just from the passive. That's quite insane. And the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that he has obviously a lot of options with his W. Do you want to stun? Do you want an AoE slow that's also AoE damage? Or do you just simply want to do full damage with the blue card while getting some mana back? Overall, a great champion, and as a quick FYI, I actually end up running move speed Quince on TF for my rune page. In case people were wondering, I highly recommend it. The cons of TF is that he is one of the harder mid laners to play because he's so fragile. So you really have to be on your toes almost all of the game, because if you get caught, well, chances are you might die, which is why you see me run Flash and Ghost rather than Flash and Ignite. Positioning is everything with TF. Then you have the blue card syndrome, which I mean a lot of people tend to just accidentally pick the blue card instead of the gold card, especially when coming in for the gank with their ultimate. And the final thing is his laning phase is so-so. Not the worst, not the best. Overall, one of my personal favorite champions in the entire game, and I highly recommend trying to pick him up if you can. But let's go into the number 4 spot, where I'm going to be putting a champion that I truly believe to be one of the best champions just simply all around. That champion is going to be none other than Ahri. In Champion Select, this is someone I actually ban personally quite often, just because I feel like she doesn't have any bad matchups. You can pick her almost into anything except for potentially Leblanc, and then chances are you'll do more than fine. Because she has sustain with her passive, she has great poke and and true damage with her Q. She has a charm which is great for picking people off. Her W is just overall strong damage. Her ultimate gives her huge mobility and damage. And she just has a really strong kit that makes her an all-around great pick. So the second pro is the fact that she does have crazy damage output, especially with DFG. Even though the item will be removed soon, they're going to be buffing Ahri, so I'm sure she'll be just as strong. Her ultimate, like I just mentioned, is one of the better ultimates in League of Legends because it gives her 3 dashes on a very low cooldown that she can do damage with as well, and just gives her huge mobility to either escape or to engage, and makes her super difficult to catch. Her charm is one of the greatest abilities for catching people off. It has pretty good range while also being pretty fat, so the hitbox is quite large. Unless of course I'm playing her. So if you ever land your charm on an opponent and it's about mid to late game, well, chances are you might go in for the kill and probably get it as well. The cons of Ahri is that her 2 main spells, the Q and E, are skill shots, so you have to land them of course. DFG, like I mentioned, will be getting removed soon, which is an item Ahri heavily relies on, but Ahri buffs should be incoming. And the final thing is she does have to be somewhat in the middle of the fight to get most of her abilities off, not the greatest of poke. Alright, so finally the top 3 AP mid laners. The first one I'll be talking about in the number 3 spot is Leblanc. I personally see Leblanc as just a better version of Ahri. Well, at least for solo queue. So the pros of Leblanc is the fact that she has a very infamous strong all-in cheese at level 2 when you get your Q and your W. Or you could wait till level 3 and get all 3 of your abilities, and chances are, you can push your opponent out of the lane. It is one of the hardest things to deal with, especially if you're up against a Leblanc who knows what they're doing. I think she has one of the best kits for an AP type assassin champion because she has so many options. Do you want to fully burst someone down? Do you want to be super mobile with a W ultimate? Do you want to lock someone down with a chain and then your ultimate chain? You just have all these options at your disposal, and that's always a great thing. A few patches ago, she did get buffed to the point where her W now has 4 seconds to go back to it, which leads up to some serious juking potential. And her passive I really feel like is no longer all that bad. It used to be pretty useless and didn't really trick anyone, but now it's actually very easy to get fooled. The cons of Leblanc, just like Ahri, rip DFG. Oh my goodness, rip this item and rip it times 2. She's definitely another champion that heavily relies on this item, but just like all the other champions that rely on DFG, she should be getting buffed as well. Another con, just like Ahri, she is a close ranged mage. Not a lot of abilities that can be used at long range, but the good thing about her that's better than Ahri is that she can gap close with her W, which is just as good as Ahri's in terms of gap closing, and she can do it so much more often. Oh, and also the fact that her ultimate's cooldown is ridiculously low. And the final thing is that she has minimal poke and not the best wave clear, because your W, usually unless you're super ahead, will not wave clear a full wave, let alone the melee minions, so you will have to use your W and then the ultimate version of your W. But overall, a very solid champion for solo queue, if not one of the best. And finally, all that's left are the top 2 AP mid laners. In the number 2 spot, I decided to put Lissandra. Some of you may be surprised, especially if you watched my video yesterday, the Tuesday, of me talking about Lissandra and just simply praising her at how good she is. Well, don't get me wrong, I really feel like she's a solid champion, and the number 1 and number 2 spot are really close to each other. But let's talk about her pros. So Lissandra has some of the best CC or crowd control in League of Legends, and I've learned the hard way, whether it's solo queue or ranked 5s, CC is just so important. The fact that she has her Q that can slow people, W that can snare people, and ultimate that can easily just lock down almost anyone that she wants makes her one of the best picks for solo queue. Did I mention that all of her abilities are AoE? So the great thing about Lissandra is that she is always useful just because of the CC that she offers, so you're not forced to win lane, while someone like Leblanc, you are kind of forced to win lane. So no matter how bad your score or how good it is, you'll always be able to offer your CC and just lock down anyone that you choose. Then you have the very infamous ultimate plus Zanya's combo with Lissandra. And a lot of her spells have quite the low cooldown, especially her Q. The cons of this Ice Witch is the fact that she once again, like almost every champion so far in this list, is a close ranged mage. On top of that, I personally feel like her passive is among the worst in League of Legends. I really look at it as just a very bad version of Xerath's passive. And the final thing is that her Q, if you're not used to it, can be a little awkward to use. But overall, a champion that I highly recommend picking up for solo queue. Alright guys, and finally the number 1 spot, I will have to give it to Azir. Contrary to my score in this game, I think Azir is one of the strongest AP mid laners in the game. The amount of damage he can bring to the team, and especially in team fights, his extreme power in the laning phase, his ultimate just being amazing at blocking off so many top laners and assassins, his passive being one of the best ones in the game, and probably also having one of the coolest skins in the game. I mean, how could you not put him in the #1 spot? People have been realizing the power of Azir very recently, because you see him banned almost every single game, but that's for a good reason. So going into the pros, Azir has one of the most aggressive laning phases if you do it correctly. The way you want to do it is you want to activate the W on top of the champion, auto attack, use your Q, and then auto attack again. He has an anti-dive ultimate, so if you have a bruiser like a Jax or Tryndamere, maybe someone like a Akali or anything of the sort, his ultimate will absolutely prevent them from going in closer to your team. On top of that, his ultimate can be used in some of the best choke points in the game, for instance, locking people down in a certain area in the jungle, trapping them in Dragon or Baron, or pushing them over the wall. He has huge auto attack range with his soldiers, being able to stay so far away from the fight while still dishing out so much damage. The cooldown on his Q and W becomes so short later on in the game that you can constantly be making new soldiers and moving them around with your Q. And if you get Nashor's Tooth, which I highly recommend getting, your auto attack speed will make your soldiers deal an obscene amount of damage. One of the best passives in the game being able to make a tower from nothing, and on top of that, pretty decent mobility with his E. The cons of Azir is that he is extremely difficult to play correctly, and on top of that, he's known to be very buggy. Alright guys, that is it for this video. Those are my current top 5 AP mid laners. If you have any questions, write them in the comments below and I'll try answering whatever I can. I'm sure most of you are wondering, where's Xerath, where's Syndra, where's Orianna, where's Cassiopeia? Well, this is one of the hardest top 5 mid laners to make in quite some time. There's so many options that I really wanted to put in this video, but I had to choose 5. And I chose these ones because I personally just love them. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video, maybe learn something new. If you did, throw in a like, share it with your friends, and I hope to see you in the next video. And also, good luck in solo queue. Peace!